When you think about the Citroën brand, you may think about a model like the 2CV, the 2 Chevaux, a real car for the people. But Citroën is obviously also very well known for their luxury sedans, like the XM, the CX, and later on the C5 and the C6. Now Citroën is introducing a new luxury sedan, the C5 X. However, it's not really a sedan. When you look at this car, you might be wondering, is it a saloon, is it an estate, or is it an SUV? Well, no, it's a Citroën C5 X, a pretty unusual name for a pretty unusual car. Now obviously, the name C5 X is a bit of a combination of XM, CX, C5, C6, and also the body shape of this car is pretty much a combination of all those cars. It has the length of a saloon car, it has the space of an estate car, and it has the height of an SUV car, although it's not really that high up on its wheels, but you do get the plastic cladding around the wheel arches. Now you might be wondering why Citroën is introducing a model that isn't really an SUV at a time when everybody really wants to have a crossover SUV. And the answer is simple, because the answer is China. In China they still love really big and long sedans like the C5 X, and Citroën really wants to have a little bit of success in China, and therefore they designed the C5 X. And therefore you can't really say that this is a European car for the Chinese market, but more for Chinese Citroën for the European market, because the car is even being built in China. That doesn't mean that this isn't a real Citroën. It's still weird, it's still quirky, and most of all it's still very comfortable. But more on that later, because I'm going to be driving the car in just a minute. But first let's do a tour around the car and have a look at the design of the Citroën CX-5. Yes, this Chinese Citroën is still a pretty funky looking car, still pretty quirky. Take for instance this, the headlights, they're all the way down here, located in the front bumper, like you see more and more nowadays. The daylight running lights are next to it. You got this LED strip running down here and also here on top, and all together they form like a V shape. Now obviously the same happens on the other side of the car, and the V shape is located the other direction, and together the daylight running lights form an X shape, which is of course a play on the C5 X name, which is pretty, well, quirky. Now obviously you got the Citroën logo on top here on the front end, but if you go all the way down to the air intake, it also has the shape of the double chevron logo. The back end design is just as funky and quirky as the front end design. Take for example the spoiler situation here. You got two spoilers, one on top, one down below here. And you don't get a rear wiper, because apparently you don't need one. Because of the two spoilers, there's a lot of air turbulence here at the back, and therefore all the water droplets will be removed because of the air turbulence. You can also see there's a little bit of a pass through here on the top spoiler. The rear lights again form an X shape, or they both form a V shape, together forming an X shape. And you can really see that they are really extended, running almost all the way under the C-pillar. Now the C-pillar is a pretty weird C-pillar because it looks massive. It looks like a big plastic black panel, but in fact it's just a window, a really tinted window, so you can't really look in, but you can look out. Then let's look at the cargo space. You got a really big hatch here, but luckily it's electric. You can also open it with your feet here. You got 545 liters of cargo space here, which is plenty. Of course, you can also fold down the rear seats, creating even more space, 1600 liters in fact. Now the car I have here, this particular version, is the plug-in hybrid version, which means that you get batteries but less cargo space. You get 60 liters less. You can fold the seats down, by the way, with these levers here, which is just really easy. You just pull them backwards and then the seats will fold down. You also get this really nice top cover that opens with the hatch, so it's never really in your way. And you also got this aluminum straps running all the way on the floor, all the way to the back, which makes it really easy to slide in suitcases. One of the best places to be in a luxury Citroën is the back seat area. Now it is really easy to get in this car because you got this really long door here, and obviously the car is a little bit higher up. Now I am 1.80 meters, and as you can see I've got plenty of leg room. I can almost completely stretch out my legs. There's also plenty of headroom, but if you're a tall person like 1.90 meters or longer, you might get in trouble because of this sloping roofline. What is really nice here in the back is that you can control the seat in front of you yourself. So if there's nobody sitting there, or if there is somebody sitting there, you can just slide the seat forward using these buttons here. Now there are two USB-C ports down here. You get an armrest obviously with two cup holders and a little bit of a storage space for your mobile device. Now these seats are really comfortable, but I'm going to talk more about them when I'm going to drive the car, because well, we really need to address them because they are so comfortable. Yes, these seats are very comfortable indeed. They are so soft. It's almost like you're sitting in a Rolls-Royce. These seats have like a lot of extra cushion on top of the regular cushion, which makes these seats very nice to sit in, especially if you're going to do longer journeys. These seats are just amazing. And it's not just the seats that are very soft, also the suspension on this car is very soft. It's an old school French Citroën, which means that this car is not meant for sporty driving. No, not at all. Although this car has a sport mode, I'm going to be talking about that later on, but I probably shouldn't, because well, you shouldn't be doing sporty driving in this car. This car has a very soft suspension, so that means that in the corners the car will dip a lot. Even when you're setting off, the car will, tilt up a little bit on the front nose. But it does mean that you have a really nice ride. I kind of miss cars like this, because nowadays all cars seem to be developed on the Nürburgring, but sometimes you just want to go from point A to point B as comfortable as possible, and then you have to go for this car. That does, however, mean that yes, it's really hard to do sporty driving with this car. Again, this car is not about sporty driving, but they did add a sport mode to this car, so I guess I should be talking about it. I should try it out. I did. There's a drive mode button here, and if you press it, you can go to hybrid mode, comfort mode, full electric mode, and yes, indeed, to sport mode. Now, what happens if you go to sport mode? The gas engine will turn on in this plug-in hybrid version, so you get the electric motor and the gas motor running, and the dampers will stiffen up, because you get adaptive dampers on this plug-in hybrid version, hydraulic dampers, and they will get a bit more stiffer, but it's not really noticeable. Still, if you go into a corner, the car will wall about a lot, so it's pretty much impossible to do sporty driving with this car. Of course, you can try, but you're not going to get great results. So it's a bit of a shame that they add that sport mode, because the car doesn't need it, because the car is not about sporty driving. Again, it's all about comfort in this car. So let's talk a bit more about the interior, because I haven't discussed that yet. The dashboard is not as quirky and funky as they used to be in classic Citroëns, and not even classic Citroëns, also Citroëns like the C5 and the C6. So that means that you don't get like a really weird steering wheel or weird buttons and levers. It's all very much, normal almost. So that means that you get a regular, normal, rectangular screen here. This is the 12-inch version, but at the base version you get a 10-inch screen. The infotainment system is new for Citroën. It's a very nice infotainment system. The interface is very clean. It's really easy to operate. Now, luckily, there's also a couple of physical buttons to operate the screen. So you get a home button to go to the home menu quite quickly, and there's also a physical button for the vehicle settings. Now, if you go all the way down here, there's even more physical buttons, but these are to operate the climate controls, which again is also very nice to have, because then you don't have to fiddle around on the screen to get the temperature higher or lower. Now in front of you, you get a digital gauge cluster, which is a really nice and sharp screen that will tell you how fast you are going. However, it won't show you much more. Of course, there are a couple of other things, like in what gear you are, how much petrol you have left, and how much electric range. But it won't show you like the navigation screen. Now luckily, this car has a head-up display that will show you the navigation map, and it will project the route on the windscreen in front of you, and also the speed you are going. Then let's talk motor options. You can get this car with a regular petrol engine producing 130 or 180 horsepower, but there's also a plug-in hybrid version that I'm driving right now. This one has a 1.6 petrol engine producing 180 horsepower, and it also has an electric motor, and altogether the system output is 225 horsepower and 360 newton meters, so that's plenty. Even for a big car like this. But with this plug-in hybrid version, you get plenty of power, it's plenty fast, especially the first couple of meters. You can really feel the electric motor doing a lot of the work. You get the instant torque going on, so you're really fast off the line. But of course, it's not the fastest car out there, again, because it's pretty heavy. But you don't really need it in a car like this, because again, this is not a car for sporty driving. Now if the battery pack is fully charged, you have around 50 kilometers of pure electric range. So that is my first experience with the brand new Citroën CX5. I would love to know what you think about this car. Do you think that Citroën has a shot in the European market with an old school luxury sedan that is not about sporty driving but all about comfort? Let me know in the comments. And if you're down there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.